Now on Channel 3 News.
New clean energy options coming to Northwest Florida. How Gulf Power is teaming up with the military to produce solar power. Plus new details. The Oklahoma Reserve deputy accused of manslaughter may have forged his experience. Good morning. Welcome to Dayside. I'm Jared Willett. Sue Strawn is on assignment. Gulf Power now working with the U.S. Navy and the U.S. Air Force to build solar energy farms across Northwest Florida. The Florida Public Service Commission approved the request today for a total of 120 megawatts. 3 facilities will be built. One 50-watt megawatt facility at NES Pensacola Softley Field, a 40-megawatt plant at NES Whiting Fields, Holly Field, and a 30-watt megawatt plant in Fort Walton Beach's Eglin Air Force Base. The combined output will be enough to power 18,000 homes. The solar facilities are expected to be operational by the year 2016. One person injured after a 2-car crash sent one of the vehicles into a Pensacola home this morning. Happened about 6:30 at Whispering Pines Drive and Hilltop Road. 2 cars hit, and the force of that collision sent one through a fence and another through a house, causing a small gas leak. Pensacola Energy took care of that. The person who crashed into the home was taken to the hospital in stable condition. The other driver okay. No one else was hurt. A Florida postal worker who managed to land a gyrocopter on the Capitol lawn says he was making a political statement. He did at the same time expose security issues at one of the most secure areas in the world. But as Karen Travers reports, he'll answer all that in court.
A day after Doug Hughes made this dramatic landing on the front lawn of the Capitol, he'll appear in federal court to hear the charges against him. His wild ride into Washington is raising major concerns about security.
How does an individual in the airspace get that close?
Hughes flew his gyrocopter right through the no-fly zone around Washington, penetrating the missile systems, radar, and anti-aircraft weapons before landing right on the west lawn of the Capitol. He traveled more than 50 miles, but sources say the gyrocopter was too small, too slow, and too low, so it was never detected by radar. A witness said Hughes was calm as he came in for landing.
There was no noise coming from him. He wasn't screaming. He wasn't shouting.
Hughes told friends and family he wanted to deliver letters to lawmakers demanding change in campaign finance laws.
And I'm going to land on the Capitol Mall in front of the Capitol building.
What he wanted to do was very brave and all that, even if a little bit stupid.
Hughes revealed his plans to a reporter from the Tampa Bay Times.
He called me up at my office, didn't identify himself, and he said, I'm going to commit an act of civil disobedience. Nobody's going to get hurt.
Hughes is lucky he didn't get hurt. A top lawmaker says if he got any closer to the Capitol building, he would have been taken out by police. Karen Travers, ABC News, Washington.
An Alabama man charged with incest and sexual assault. Walton County deputies say they were called to a home in Freeport for medical assistance yesterday. When they got there, they found a 15-year-old girl and a 50-year-old man, Dan Marshall, naked, the victim having trouble breathing, taken to the hospital. Deputies say they overheard her tell emergency responders that Marshall had raped her. Marshall now booked into the Walton County Jail. A third man has been arrested in connection with that gang rape on Panama City Beach. George Kennedy of Tennessee is charged with sexual battery by multiple perpetrators. Investigators say they identified Kennedy in a cell phone video that shows the incident during spring break in March. He's a student at Middle Tennessee State University. Troy University students Ryan Calhoun from Mobile and Delonte Martiste from Georgia have also been charged with sexual battery in connection with that incident. A flask of vodka smuggled into a dance at a middle school. At least one parent says the school should have handled things differently. Escambia County Sheriff's deputies were called to Ransom Middle School after a girl got sick at the dance over the weekend. She told them she thought she had been drinking. Other students say it was vodka.
Occasionally, people do wrong things, and when they do, a lot of them get caught. And they get caught because you've got security, chaperones on site.
The school only notified the parents of the students who'd been drinking, but one parent says they should have notified everyone so they could have a conversation about drinking with their children. One of the 11 crash victims of last month's Black Hawk helicopter crash was buried at Arling National Cemetery on Monday. Marine Staff Sergeant Andrew Sipe, among the 11 service members on board the helicopter, went down in Santa Rosa Sound during training with Eglin Air Force Base. 7 Marines, 4 soldiers were killed. We aired a story regarding rental problems in Destin on March 17th. As part of that story, we showed you several realtor signs, including Kylie Beach Resorts. By showcasing the realtor companies, we were illustrating an area in Destin with rental properties. By showing the realtor signs, we're not saying or implying that these companies were contributing to the cause of, or responsible for the trash, noise, and rental overcrowding issues in the Destin community. Well, it's that time of year, mosquito time in Northwest Florida, and sometimes, well, more than an itch, they can carry disease. That's why Escambia County officials want people to remember that mosquitoes breed in bodies of stagnant water. Bob Betts manages mosquito control for the county. He says it takes about 5 to 10 days for a mosquito egg to hatch.
The best thing for us to do now is go on a little search and destroy.
Betts says you're outside, wear insect repellent, of course, perhaps long sleeves and pants. Avoid outdoor activities during dawn and dusk. That's when mosquitoes are most active. Also, if you have a mosquito problem, call the County Mosquito Control Program. They should be able to help you out. Plenty of standing water, I would imagine, these days.
And more coming.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Had heavy rain early this morning. Then it's actually been pretty quiet for the remainder. Just a few minutes ago, a little bit of rain popped up. But this afternoon, I do expect it to start going again. Here's a look at that flash flood watch. We've talked a lot about this. This goes until 7 p.m. Friday. But again, I do believe it will end up going through much of, if not all of, the weekend because rain is still in the forecast. So here's the Doppler at this moment. And yes, it's actually pretty quiet. Take a look at the last few hours and you'll see very little rain, but just in the last 45 minutes. Watch right here in northern Santa Rosa County. See that? A couple of downpours did pop up, and some of that, the heaviest rain, is now moving into Escambia County in South Alabama. But more is coming. A look at Futurecast in a few minutes.
Right now we have some new details about the police officer in Arizona who ran down a suspect with his patrol car.
6 man down.
Officer Michael Repchko was the subject of a lawsuit at his previous job in New York, accused of pointing a gun at a man during a parking dispute. But that lawsuit was settled. Now investigators insist the officer's actions were justified when he rammed his cruiser into Mario Valencia. Valencia wanted in connection with multiple crimes. Officers say he threatened to kill himself while walking towards an area full of people. He had a loaded gun. Valencia lived, but his lawyers say the circumstances didn't justify the officer's response. The Oklahoma Reserve deputy charged with manslaughter in the death of a man may not have been properly trained. 73-year-old Robert Bates killed Eric Harris earlier this month. Bates claims he accidentally fired his gun rather than his taser. But the newspaper Tulsa World reports that some supervisors at the Tulsa County Sheriff's Office were told to forge Bates's training records. The newspaper reports 3 supervisors who refused to sign the forged records were reassigned. The Sheriff's Office denies that newspaper report. Teams looking for Malaysian Airlines MH370 down in the Indian Ocean plan to double the search area now. That's if they don't find the aircraft in the current zone they've mapped out. Senior ministers say they've agreed to extend the search area by about 37,000 square miles if the plane isn't found by May. They warn it could take up to a year to finish combing the new search zone. Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 went missing in March of last year after leaving Malaysia on its way to China. Today marks the 8th year anniversary of the Virginia Tech shootings. To date, it's the deadliest shooting rampage in modern U.S. history. April 16, 2007, 23-year-old Sung Ho Cho killed 32 people at the college in Blacksburg before taking his own life. The shooter was a senior majoring in English at the school. Baby food producer Beechnut recalling nearly a ton of products. The company says the food may contain small pieces of glass. USDA says 4-ounce jars of Stage 2 classic sweet potato and chicken are affected. The jars were produced on December 12, 2014. The recall was issued after a consumer found a small piece of glass in a jar of Beechnut. Beechnut says at least one person has been hurt because of that glass. Coming up on Dayside, getting young people to vote. What Escambia County is teaching students about elections. And do remember, you can take Channel 3 News with you anywhere in the world. Search WEAR TV on iTunes or Google Play. Download the app. It's free.
This is Northwest Florida's news station. You're watching Channel 3 News Dayside in high definition with anchors Sue Strawn.
A good many current high school students could be voting for our next president. So, Escambia County Elections Office teamed up with Tate High School to get them excited about going to the polls. Channel 3's Anthony Purr shows us what the kids learned from the experience.
For each category and up to 7 for girls. Thank you.
Take a closer look. These voters look young because they are. Freshmen, sophomores, and juniors in high school. This isn't an election for governor or county commissioner, but for student government at Tate High School, and minus the fact that it's April and a non-election year, this is as real as the experience gets. You won't find Hillary Clinton or Marco Rubio's name on these, but these are real election ballots made by election officials. They're even read by real voting machines.
It's a great way to expose these kids to how a real election works.
Teachers say this is a new experience for some, and it helps ease first-time voting concerns.
I didn't really know what to expect, so I was kind of lost, but I think that it helped us a lot.
Later on Channel 3 News at 6, we'll show you participation numbers of young voters. You might be surprised and realize why election officials take the time to hold programs like these. Reporting in Escambia County, Anthony Purra, Channel 3 News.
Bird strikes, always a threat to aircraft. In March, an American Airlines jet made an emergency landing at JFK in New York after flying into a flock of geese. Military aircraft face the same problems at Hurlburt Field. Specially trained dogs are used to chase the birds and other wildlife away from the runways. The bird strike control program began in 2004. In the 10 years prior, bird strikes caused almost $500,000 in damage to aircraft. Since the program began, strikes have gone down 56%, and there have been no damaging wildlife strikes.
It's not very often that it happens, but we do have strikes where wildlife have caused extreme amounts of damage and even death. And so knowing that we can help be responsible for preventing that is really rewarding.
Well, the border collies used in the program were all rescue dogs. Their handler says the high intelligence and restless energy that leads some families to give them up make them perfect for that job. When Dayside continues, every year more than 3 million reports of child abuse in the U.S. You can help lower that number. We'll talk about that. And as we go to break, remember to sign up to be our Facebook fan of the day. Today's fan will win a voucher for 4 tickets to Disney on Ice at the Bay Center next week. Enter, go to facebook.com/WEARTV. Click on the Connect 3 button. You'll find that at the top of the page. It is National Child Abuse Awareness Month, and would you please say good morning to the Sheriff of Santa Rosa County and Chairman of the Santa Rosa Kids House, Wendell Hall. Sheriff, it's always good to see you. How are you?
Jared? I'm great. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
You bet. We've talked about this before on the show and others, and it's so disheartening when you hear the numbers.
It is, and you know, our kids are so helpless, and they have no choice in the matter of even being born, but they certainly have no means of defending themselves against these predators that not only abuse them physically, but sexually. Mm-hmm. And of course, my involvement with Santa Rosa Kids House, in the 35 years almost that I've been doing this, it's so much better now than it used to be. A lot more people are coming forward, but we still need to have these awareness months, and it's not only nationally, but we do it locally. We have our awareness campaigns. We go out and we put out purple bows, we put out pinwheels. We do everything to let people know that if they have any reason to believe that a child is being abused, that there's means that they should report it.
It would seem to me that might be a tough thing for a lot of people to do. If it's your neighbor, your friend, your relative.
It is, and a lot of times, an awful lot of times, it is a relative. Most of the people become victims of someone they know. And it is hard, and that's why a lot of people do not do it, because they don't want to disrupt a relative or disrupt a family or see a relative go to prison even, because they will go to prison if they're convicted. But there are also ways that you can call the 1-800-ABUSE number, and you don't have to give your name, you don't have to tell. You give the information, and DCF will go out and start the investigation within 24 hours. Mm-hmm. So, you know, like I say, if anyone has any reason to believe that a child is being abused, they should call and let us get involved and let DCF get involved.
And it's not like a conviction all of a sudden. It is investigated to see if your thoughts, your feelings are real.
And only a small portion, or a portion of the ones that are reported to DCF actually are turned over to law enforcement. Mm-hmm. You know, they may find reason to believe that there is something, maybe uncleanliness or something in the house that's not good for the kids, but it may not be criminal. Mm-hmm. But if they get us involved, there's usually a criminal act of some sort, and then it's investigated, and we're held to the same standards with child abuse that we are everything else. They're innocent until proven guilty.
All right, it's time to be aware, and if you think something, make the call. It can be anonymous, or
yes.
it is anonymous.
It is. It can be anonymous, or you don't have to give your name. You can call it. That call goes into Tallahassee, 1-800-CHILD-ABUSE, and you know, you could be preventing a child from being continually abused.
And that's a very, very good thing. Sheriff, it is always a distinct pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, Jared. Thank you for having us.
We'll be back in just a moment here on Dayside. Get ready to have some fun. Milton's Scratch Ankle Festival now rescheduled for next Friday. It was canceled last week due to all the bad weather. Also, the city will soon enough decide about the Riverwalk Market and bans on the Blackwater. When they decide, we'll let you know.
Flash flood watch through tomorrow evening, though it's actually pretty quiet right now. Here's the Doppler radar. A little rain east of Bruton in Escambia County in South Alabama. Through the afternoon, though, more showers are expected to develop.
And with that, we say thank you for tuning in to Channel 3 News Dayside, and we invite you to tune in for Channel 3 News at 4, 5, 6, and 10.